From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to Beat the Champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ. My name is Paul Peck with Janelle Sabin and Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky. I missed you guys. It's nice to be back here. Nice to be back on this outstanding show, and we're going to have a little bit of fun here again in Niagara Falls.
That's right. You weren't here last month, but it was a sports shot, and they've done it to them again. So they gave them a second sports shot.
It's going to be even harder today, isn't it?
That's right. It was challenging last month, and they said they were going to put out something a little bit tougher. But just kind of the opposite. It was a lot of heavy oil last time. This time, you've got a reverse block. So these bowlers are challenged, but the guy coming back has like the opposite effect coming. So again, it affects the champion when they come back to the house and it's different.
Yeah, well, we've got great bowlers, including our returning champion, Jayson Schubbe, Rob Piccoli. We know how good Rob is. Kevin Volker's been successful, and Jeremy Zimmerman, one of our most successful bowlers here. So if any group of guys are ready to handle what's on the lanes, it should be them.
That's right, and obviously they're the ones that bowled best on this shot, but they're very straight down and in players, where Jayson kind of likes to open up the lane. So again, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out.
All right, so challenges on the lanes, challenges from the really good bowlers. You ready for all of it?
I am ready, and just like you, it's been a while since I've been here, so I'm really excited to be back as well.
All right, well, Janelle and I are back. We're ready to go. Are you ready to go? Are our bowlers ready to go? It's time to find out. Let's get rolling. And it's Piccoli versus Schubbe to get us started, and that's a really good way to get us going. So
Exactly.
These two guys are outstanding. Jayson Schubbe coming off the win 2 weeks ago here as our returning champion. So he, like you said, even though things have changed on the lanes, this is a place that Jayson's comfortable with. And of course, we know how good Rob Piccoli is. Maybe the most consistent bowler we have had on this show over the last year. I'll throw some numbers at you here in a moment, but here we go. Second month in a row at the Rapids Bowling Center in Niagara Falls, and it starts off with a rocket Rob strike.
Well, these lanes are, like I said in the opening, they're
Yeah, I want you to
dry.
explain a little bit more for people at home, because they're looking at us being at the same place that we were last month, but literally throw that out. Other than the physical location, it's completely different, right?
That's right. They laid down a different pattern. They wanted to be challenging both months that they were here. They didn't use a house shot either time. And this is a very high-scoring place. So to take the house shot out of here is, people are used to coming here and just shooting like giant numbers. But I have to be honest with you, these guys have made this look pretty easy. And I guess they're the ones that have bowled the absolute best on it. But even Jayson's making it look kind of easy. And
Right.
what we're getting is dry boards to your left and oily boards to your right, which is the opposite of what it normally is to make the scores higher. You keep the oil boards to the left so it holds your ball off from hooking. And if you miss a little bit to the right, you got that forgiveness, and this is just the opposite.
Right, and it's even the opposite for Jayson, who won 2 weeks ago here, but what you're saying is that this is completely different than what he was prepared for 2 weeks ago.
Right, there was a lot of oil last month, and this one is like that one he cut short. You saw that he missed the pocket to the left. You cannot cut it short on this, and here it is. You can, if you make good shots, you're gonna see, good ball reaction, but you have to be careful not to think to yourself, I can't miss right and I can't miss left, because the minute you start thinking those thoughts, that's when those bad shots happen. So one of the real keys here is just to try to take a deep breath and stay as loose as you possibly can, because you don't want to think negatives.
Well, we've had nothing. They're blowing all your points out of the water here because we've had nothing but strikes in the first two frames, and there's nobody who I think has been looser than Rob, and that's what we've talked about as you get your first look at Janelle Sabin and the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. We've seen that transition of Rob not being so much rocket and just being now one of the best technical bowlers that we have in Western New York. So does that play to his advantage?
I think we're at a time in the season here, in the middle of the season, where you've been bowling for 3 months, so you're probably at the peak of how good you are, and these guys that bowl often and bowl the most leagues, like Rob, are going to be at their sharpest right now. And Rob's made the show like 6 out of 8 months.
How about 6 of the last 7?
Yeah, and he wasn't here last month, but you know, so you know that he's hot right now.
Yep, 5 months in a row, missed last month here, and now he's back here. So 6 of the last 7. He's got a very tough pickup here. That is, oh, we gave it a good shot, but it's going to result in an open in the 3rd for Rob Piccoli, and that's the first non-strike we've had. So here's Jayson Schubbe, 37 years old, from West Seneca, IT professional at ECMC, making his 10th appearance here on Beat the Champ. 7 wins and 6 losses is the overall record.
And again, in the last couple months, Jayson has just exploded. He had a big streak at Bradford, and
4 in a row.
Yep, and then he was back here again. And he's just hot. And I think one of the things about the bowlers being hot, so to speak, is that they have more confidence in themselves and they will make better shots on this. When you're second guessing yourself and you're maybe not, you know, you're not averaging as much. And that's another thing I kind of want to look at today is what these guys average regularly and what they end up bowling today. Because you know they're bowling on house shots to get these 225, 227 averages. But again, confidence in your game right now is really critical to mastering this shot.
3 strikes in a row for Jayson Schubbe, frame 4.
Nice shot.
Make it 4 in a row. So these 2 guys were amongst our most successful bowlers in 2019. We keep track of all the records in the calendar year. Chuck Jagodzinski won 15 matches in 2019. Rob Piccoli right behind him with 14. And not far down the list, Jayson Schubbe with 5 wins in the calendar year of 2019. Rob Piccoli's 14-9 in 13 shows in 2019 is incredible. That's the most shows that anybody made in 2019, and as we mentioned, 6 of the last 7 months. That is an incredible run of consistency in qualifying.
I know it is, isn't it? And it's funny how it was all the beginning of the year, first half of the year, it's all talk of you know, Chuck and Mike Zarcone, and of course they did an amazing job of making the shows, but sort of flipped because Pat Brick and Jayson came out of nowhere and started to like really challenge those 2 for being on the show.
Yep, 19th appearance overall for Rob Piccoli here on Beat the Champ. 16 wins and 14 losses. He is number 3 on the list of most shows behind Jagodzinski and Zarcone, and tied for 4th with Jeremy Zimmerman, behind Jagodzinski, Zarcone, and Brick on the wins list. And we'll see Jeremy Zimmerman later on in our show, but what Rob is running into now is some very difficult splits that now he's left 2 of them, 2 7-10, 2 6-7-10 splits.
Yeah.
Why the same leave twice now?
Just the same shot. I mean, he's playing the lanes down at 8, trying to like go right to left, but again, there's a dry to the left of him, and he's finding that on 29, obviously down the lane a little bit. He's hitting that dry.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
You know, you're going to see more opens, I think.
Only 3 strikes for Rob so far. 2 opens and 2 spares. Here he is in frame 8.
Big shot for Rob.
Now it looked good the whole way down the lane.
So he cut the lead to 21, and if you think that beautiful shot he threw on 29 where he run the 10, that would have made a big difference in this match if that would have gotten carried. But you know, still, it's pretty much going to have to strike here to make Jayson show up for the next 2.
So big stretch here as we head to the 9th frame for Rob Piccoli. Can he start 2020 off the same way he was not just finished, but ran the whole length of 2019? And that's a big 9th frame strike.
All right, well, Rob's done his job. He went up and posted a double. Good thing for Jayson that he's on a strike, but here's another thing when you start getting pressure situations. You gotta keep your cool and make good shots.
There's Janelle on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard telling you the story coming down the stretch of this terrific match between two outstanding bowlers, Jayson Schubbe and Rob Piccoli. This is the 9th frame for Jayson Schubbe. Yeah, that one just kind of died about halfway, 3/4 of the way down. Didn't have much momentum as it hooked, and you see the line of pins left on the right side.
Well, that ball never got out to his target. He definitely got around that one early, and I'm sure he knew off his hand that wasn't making it to his target. So now we've got an interesting match. Big spare here, not an easy spare on this.
3-6-10, staring down Jayson Schubbe.
Using his urethane ball. Nice
Got
spare,
it.
nice cover.
So made a ball change there just for that shot?
He's using a urethane ball, yeah, to cover his spare, so it doesn't, hook as much, doesn't overreact like a high performance ball.
So Jayson heads to the 10th frame here. Can he put down enough pins to avoid having to sweat it out?
Needs to strike out. If he strikes out, gets all 3, he shuts out Rob. If he doesn't get all 3, Rob still has a chance. That's the first one.
Got one.
The best Rob can post up if he strikes out is a 212. So basically, another strike here and 9 could give us the chance of a tie. But he needs this one right here.
And the Castellone scoreboard tells you the story, and Jayson will write the story here in the next couple of rolls. Looking for 2 wins in a row. Got that one too far right. And you could see the thrust of the right hand tells you the frustration on missing a big chance
Well,
there.
right, that's where this condition will show. He missed that one a little bit to the right, and it just stayed out there, because that's where this...
So it never hooked in because of the oil
to the
pattern
right, yep.
and the lane situation. It never got that right to left hook. All right, so now Jayson's got to do some damage control. And he'll be successful at that.
So Rob still needs to double.
203 on the board for Jayson Schubbe. Will it be enough? That's up to this guy and that scoreboard. So a double for Rob Piccoli will give him a victory.
Correct.
Off to a match against Kevin Volker, who awaits the winner.
That spare was actually very important because it made Rob have to double as opposed to just get the first one. Wow.
There's the first that Rob Piccoli needs to win.
I love it. I love it when these guys get up here and throw great shots on what is a very challenging condition.
Well, he needs to do it again.
He needs to do it again.
Same thing, same way. Just do it again.
Anything less than a strike is not enough.
So it's 1 roll, a strike for the win. Anything less than that, Jayson Schubbe advances. High drama already in our first match of 2020 here at the Rapids Bowling Center, a little earlier than we normally do. Here goes Rob Piccoli with a chance to win. And he won't get it. Once again, kind of died at the end, never made the right to left movement that he needed, and that will clinch the victory for Jayson Schubbe. We'll watch Rob finish it out here, but comes up just a couple of pins shy, and it's a win, 2 in a row for Jayson Schubbe. So last month here at Niagara Falls, this month at Niagara Falls, different conditions, but the same result, a win for Jayson Schubbe. We'll check in with Rob and get you ready for match number 2. Sue and I are off and rolling in the Cataract City. We're back to Niagara Falls right after this. terrific match to get us started. 203 to 196. Jayson Schubbe beats Rob Piccoli. How much pressure is there on you? You're right there, that second roll of the 10th frame. Strike or no strike, win or lose. What's going through your head?
No, I was pretty calm. I thought I threw a pretty good ball, maybe a little firm, but just didn't read up into the pocket and left a split there. But
all right, so you're the first guy to give us a sense of what the lanes are doing, what the challenge is from the oil pattern.
Well, if you get it a little right, the ball's not going to react, and it's just going to stay on the outside and either get a split or a washout. In the inside, if you throw it too slow, it's going to overreact. So you got to kind of be straight up the boards. And
these guys are going to be able to handle it,
so,
you think?
Maybe. It's a lot of mental process to think about. So.
Right. Spoken like a guy who isn't going to be here anymore, giving everybody else a maybe. We know we're going to see you back. You're always here. You're here every month. That's what we love about you. Rob Piccoli, a good match, but it's Jayson Schubbe that moves on. Match number 2 coming up from the Rapids Bowling Center. Match number 2 is Kevin Volker challenging Jayson Schubbe, trying to knock him off his champion's perch. And Kevin's familiar with this show. This is his 5th appearance. He has won 4 and lost 3. Last time we saw him was June, Tonawanda Bowling Center, when he won 4 in a row before losing to Mike Zarcone. So Kevin Volker knows his way around this show. Let's see if he knows his way around these lanes. Obviously, as our second qualifier, he knows a little bit.
Well, you're watching
or maybe not.
Well, he's trying to use a lot of speed. Again, this lane, 29, definitely has a little, they're both dry in the middle, but I have to assume from sitting here that 29 has a little bit less hold, and holds really, I use that term lightly, but everybody seems to be, when you miss to the left on 29, it goes straight to the head pin.
Yep, and Kevin doesn't even get any of those other 3 pins, so it's a 7-pin open to start. We have seen some really interesting leaves here so far, and some almost impossible splits. And again, that's the product of what the lanes are doing.
Yeah, and you know what? Nobody's really going to run away with anything. You don't want to give away any pins. I mean, even I certainly hope he was trying to get 2 on that, but it's real important to keep up your pin count, because the scores are not going to be high. You know, right. This isn't going to be a 260 to 240 game. You got to take all of your pins.
Well, Jayson won 203 to 196 with 2 open frames, and I think we've already established what you've already said, which is spare making is going to be the key. There's going to be some strikes. We just saw one from Jayson. They're not going to be a lot, and if you don't strike, you better get that pin count.
Right.
That's 2 matches in a row that Jayson has opened with a double. That's a nice way to set a little bit of a tone.
Absolutely.
And already put the pressure on the 34-year-old from Tonawanda, Kevin Volker. Managed account administrator is Kevin's profession. 225 average for him.
Well, as the higher seed, Jayson gets to pick whether he wants to start the match or finish it. And he chose to finish it in the first match against Rob, and he's also choosing to finish it here. And as you can see, in the first match, he forced Rob to have to finish. And on a condition like this, every little bit of pressure shows. You have that, these lanes are unforgiving. So the smart thing to do is to have the other person finish, because they get tight at all, and it's going to show on the lanes.
And normally, a lot of guys want to have control by finishing, right? They want to know, what do I need to do to win? But I see your point here that as much as that's always important, because of the unpredictability, you want to set the bar and make the other guy feel the pressure. And we clearly saw that in our first match, where Rob couldn't get the double that he needed, and that was the determiner in the match.
Any kind of squeeze on the ball is going to affect their ball reaction. You have to be loose, and you have to trust your shot, and you have to hit your target. Any little bit of pressure makes you squeeze just a little bit, pinch it off a little bit, and it's going to be magnified on this condition.
And And once again, as we've seen a number of times, not getting enough of that right to left action, missing the pocket and leaving pins, in this case, one.
What we've seen out of both straight players, and Jayson is not a straight player. Kevin and Rob are both straight players. 29, if you get it in a little bit, it takes off on you. If you get up the boards, it doesn't quite make it.
That was another little gentle touch to the spare.
It is very difficult for a straight player to hit the pocket at this point on lane 29.
There are the numbers on Jayson Schubbe, 37 years old from West Seneca. I mentioned that he is expecting his first child with his wife, Michelle. That'll come in April, but his youngest stepson, Dylan, already taken up bowling and has made the West Seneca East bowling team with a high game of 209. I'm sure Jayson's helping him out a little bit there, too.
I did their bowling shirts. I wonder which one is his stepson. I'll have to ask him.
Well, as we're here at the Rapids Bowling Center on a Saturday morning, you can tell that this place has come alive with the youth bowling leagues that are generally around Western New York on a Saturday morning, and we're here a little earlier than we normally are. And this place is all of a sudden, it was quiet when we all got here. It is not quiet anymore.
Was bowling a thing in New Jersey when you were a kid?
Sure it was. I think bowling, particularly when I grew up at the time frame of the 70s and 80s, bowling was a thing everywhere, but not to the level that it is here.
Did you bowl juniors?
Nope. I mean, I bowled, parties occasionally, just sort of random fun bowling. And I think that's the difference from where I grew up to here, is that it's so much more ingrained in the fabric of what Western New York is, and the way kids come up and their uncle bowls, their aunt bowls, their dad bowls, their mom bowls, you're bowling, right? That wasn't always the case where I grew up, and I think that's what's not only cool about what this show's history is going back to the 60s and 70s, but what it's become now is, even if you don't bowl anymore, or we've skipped some of those generations, there's still people that appreciate what the sport is.
Well, absolutely. You're right. Most people in this area have bowling in their history somewhere. And like in my day, every kid got put into junior bowling on Saturday mornings. I think that was how our parents got us out of the house.
Well, I think you might be right about that, yes.
This looks like a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
All right, so coming down the stretch here, 8th frame for Kevin Volker, has a big deficit to overcome right now. Again, as we've seen, the wheels can always come off the guy with a big lead. And Kevin really wanted that one.
He really needed that.
Yeah.
We're really only talking 14 pins here, so a double would actually put Kevin in the lead. So he knew that was that he needed to catch that one. I mean, he's going to have to double here somewhere. And that was a real good attempt. So 14 pin, only 14 pins separating these two guys. Great spare.
So that's 3 spares in a row and 6 spares out of 8 frames for Kevin Volker, to Sue's point of make those spares, get your pin count where you need it to be. So now Kevin will go bowl 9th frame on 29. Jayson gets his chance to set the bar, and then the pressure goes back to Kevin,
right,
to have to overcome it or jump over that bar.
Big shot.
Oh, Kevin thought he had that. So did I.
That was a great shot.
I think we all thought that was going to be a big 8th frame strike. Instead, 7-pin wouldn't go down.
Yep, so look at this. These guys made 3 out of 4 really great shots, and none of them got strikes for it. So they're working hard.
And that's the other point that you've clearly laid out, is that guys can make great shots and they don't always result in strikes. And that's the difference of what we're seeing here today, is normally on a house pattern, a great shot is a strike.
Right.
Here, great shots don't always equate to getting all 10 pins.
Yeah, actually both these guys, because he left that 10 pin over there, both these guys made really strong shots here to finish out this match.
All right, so Jayson Schubbe will finish out here, 9th and 10th frames. And much like he did in the last match over Rob Piccoli, he wants to create the challenge for his opponent. That one really started to fade, and I didn't think he was going to get him.
Well, no,
and
that one hooked off. That hooked off his hand. I mean, well, he cut that short, and that's what happens in the middle of the lane. If you cut it short, it's going to run away on you. And that ball just took off. But
so how was he able to still get a strike?
Lucky. He got a lucky Brooklyn strike, and he'll say the same thing. But here they make 4 great shots to the pocket, and nobody strikes. And you make a bad shot.
One bad shot, and it is a strike.
And it is a strike.
Well, you need a little bit of that too. As much as all these guys are great bowlers, you better have a little luck too. And Jayson gets it, and maybe that's the difference in this match.
Well, that's a huge strike right there in the 9th frame. Oh my God!
Look at that one. That's another. Add that to the list of leaves that we've seen so far today. The 1, 2, 6, 10.
All he needed was a spare to shut Kevin out, and he can still make this. Actually, with the way he throws the ball, the way his ball is always going away.
So you want to hit between the 1 and the 2 and take them over to take the 6, 10.
Yeah. It's challenging, but the best Kevin can finish with is 188. So Jayson has to get himself to 189 or better.
All right, let's see what Jayson can do with this 10th frame. Oh, he almost got it.
Wow.
Almost got it. So it's a 181 on the board for Jayson Schubbe. Here we go again. I think this is every one of these matches is going to come down to the 10th. All right, so what does Kevin Volker need?
2 strikes.
2 strikes. Much exactly like Rob Piccoli did.
Yep, 1 strike's not
Well, let's
enough.
see. Can Jayson Schubbe and the power of orange pull off another one here?
The strategy of making the other guy finish.
That's right. That is it. 2 strikes for the win for Kevin Volker. And it won't happen. Once again, Kevin Volker, I feel bad for him because that looked good, it sounded good. I think he thought it was good, and it wasn't good.
At the end of the game, he actually threw the best shots, but not enough.
Not enough. So it's a 181 victory for Jayson. One more to go here for Kevin to post up that final score. But for the second consecutive match, pressure on the guy who's trailing into the 10th frame. They can't answer the bell. It's a 181 to 176. Jayson Schubbe victory, 2 in a row here today, 3 in a row overall, and a match with Jeremy Zimmerman all coming up. We're off to a roaring start here in Niagara Falls. Sue Navoyski, Paul Peck, Janelle Saban. It's Beat the Champ. We're back right after this. Well, Kevin, Sue Navoyski said she actually thought you threw more better shots in that match than Jayson, but you're standing here, and that's kind of the way this thing goes, doesn't it?
Yeah, 1-game matches, it's a little bit of carry, but the lanes are tough, but it's exciting. I enjoy this a lot more than house shots, and it's just exciting to bowl on something hard.
You said something to me that's very interesting. You said you have to be exact with all of your shots, right?
Yeah, you have no miss room, so if anybody does a big game today, they're earning it for sure. And like I said, I loved it. I enjoyed every minute. Didn't get the carry, but I did last time I was on the show, so I enjoyed it.
We enjoyed watching it. It's been 2 incredibly tense matches. Not so good for Kevin. He didn't win it, but we'll see what happens. Match number 3, Schubbe and Zimmerman, coming up next from Niagara Falls. Well, what will match number 3 bring us? The first 2 have been incredibly dramatic right down to the end, and what I think match number 3 is going to bring us is this guy, Jeremy Zimmerman, one of the true folk heroes of Beat the Champ in so many ways. We haven't seen Jeremy a lot lately, but anybody that has watched this show knows his place in Beat the Champ. History of having won the longest winning streak we've ever had on the show, and Jeremy bowls very well here at the Rapids Bowling Center, so let's see if that's an advantage for him at all. First frame, not so great.
Well, this is something that I don't think we've ever seen before on Beat the Champ, and that is Jeremy moving in and not being
I thought you were going to say him being very quiet.
Well, he starts off quiet. Actually, he's pretty focused when he bowls.
Oh no, he is as locked in as I can ever remember him, and he's normally very chatty and a very outgoing personality, but he seems totally locked in here today.
But for him, that's playing very, very deep. He actually opened up a little bit because there's really no hold. What you want to search for is some head oil to hold your ball off, and because these lanes are so dry in the middle, you're almost trying to get the left-handers.
And there, I was just about to say there's that dreaded crazy split leave that we've seen a few times.
It's
and then
still
Jayson,
dreaded.
I know, but Jayson at least gets the 10 pin to go down. So we have seen a lot of 6, 7, 10 splits. So this is going to be a 7, 6, 7 split. That's not much easier, is it?
No, in order to make it, you're still going to do the exact same thing as if the 10 pin was there. You have to really just nick it on the outside.
Now, hit too much head on with the 6. So that's an open in the first frame for Jayson Schubbe, who, I don't want to say he's figured out these lanes, but he's figured them out just slightly better than the opponents in his first 2.
Well, he's also gotten off to some quick starts. He's doubled both his matches and got ahead and really hung on to that little bit of a lead all the way through to the end. But not this time. He's going to have it easy.
Yep, and boy, that's once again, that never hooked far, got it too far right, didn't hook enough, and he leaves himself a big challenge here.
Well, like I mentioned, they're looking for the head oil, and they're in a spot where there's nothing to hold the ball off. So the deeper you get, you have to get as deep as you possibly can, but you still have to open it up. And there is that oil right around the second arrow and everything to the right of it. So your ball sprays out to that. It is not coming back just like that. So that oil just stops it from making its turn.
Let's see what Jayson can do with this. Doesn't want to start with 2 opens. And unfortunately, he will.
Well, and talking to Jayson a little bit between the break, he said he's used every ball that he's brought so far, attempting to try to find something. And, now it's just a matter of, pitch it and hope, because they're tough.
Second frame for Jeremy Zimmerman. He's making his 15th appearance here on Beat the Champ. 16 wins versus 8 losses. Those 16 wins are tied for 4th all-time with Rob Piccoli, trailing only Chuck Jagosinski, Mike Zarcone, and Pat Brick.
Yeah, that was quite a run he went on.
And 14 of those 16 wins came in one stretch back in 2017 when he won 2 here, 9 at Classic, and 3 here in Niagara Falls again. It's one of the all-time great runs, moments that we've seen on this show. I don't want to go as far, because it's blasphemy to say as far as the famous Nin Angelo run back in the day, but it's at least this Beat the Champs equivalent of that run. Those 14 in a row were amazing, and if anybody remembers, it wasn't all 14 wins of dominance, was it?
I know, but we were almost talking about it.
It was crazy lucky breaks, and it was this guy needs 2 pins and he only gets 1, and Jeremy wins, and it was amazing to be a part of that, watching the 37-year-old from Lockport back in 2017.
That's right. Tough spare here.
Oh, good pickup.
Great
So
cover.
3 spares to open with, and that ultimately may be the key here for Jeremy Zimmerman. So Schubbe's now won 3 in a row and upped his overall record to 9-6.
Well, he's up 17 pins already after 2 frames, and it's just simply by making the spares. Because Jayson opens up the lane. He is not direct. So the more you open up the lane, the more you're going to open yourself up to trouble hitting going from the dry to the oil.
Now, he could tell he didn't like it right away. Kind of turned his back on that before there was even any contact with the pins.
Wow.
He'll have a 610 to pick up.
They become nearly impossible because what you can't do is you can't move all the way to the right and start trying to like use the oil to the right because it's too heavy. So they've got to stay into where the dry is, but the dry is becoming impossibly dry.
How often, and that is 3 straight opens for Jayson Schubbe. How often, he's joking about it, I'll give him credit for that. How often in tournaments, competition around Western New York are these guys going to see this much of a challenging oil pattern?
Not very often. They've really, even the tougher shots have been softened up some because it just makes people look bad, and bowlers are not prepared to look bad anymore because the lanes have become.
Have they ever been? And finally, a smile on Jason's face.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
And that's another thing. The more you hit the ball, the more it's going to magnify this condition. And that's why you see Gary and you see Jeremy, you saw Rocket Rob, you see straighter players making the cut on this because when you start opening it up and having a lot of hand, you run into trouble.
It's one thing to strategically understand what the lanes are doing to you. It's another thing to deal with it in the moment, right?
Right.
And so take everybody into how you've done that in your career. I mean, you've walked into plenty of bowling centers and figured out this is not going to be a 250 day,
Right.
but all of a sudden when you're going open and spare and you're missing spares, it's not easy to keep your spirits in the right place.
It's so easy to go bucket or wash out, through the face. It's almost like it's easier to do that than it is to do anything else. What a great spare.
That's a terrific spare.
What a great spare. That might be his best shot of the day, is making that spare. That is a difficult spare on this.
So what Jeremy Zimmerman has done through 7 frames, as you can see on the Castellone scoreboard, is 6 spares and an open. Jayson, through 6 frames, is 5 opens and a strike. 2 strikes through 7. I think, is Jayson predicting a spareless?
Can you line up to go Brooklyn?
It might be a spareless match here for Jayson.
In all honesty, it's not the worst idea to line up to go Brooklyn. Hitting the pocket on this is so hard. And this lane worse.
Yeah, 29 has been much tougher than 30. Oh, that one really got away from
you can't get it out there. That's the oil.
Yep.
But this is where you get into that negative thought process of, I can't miss right, I can't miss right, I can't cut it short, I can't cut it short. And because the truth be told, you can't, but somehow you have to train your mind to look at a target down the lane and just try to get your ball to that target down the lane and not think about anything else.
Boy, we are really seeing these guys pushed in ways that we don't normally see.
Well, I see Gary Kinnean on the practice pair laughing. He's not going to laugh so hard when he gets on this pair.
And it's the first spare of the match for Jayson Schubbe. Thumbs up and a nice round of applause from the crowd. It took him to his 8th frame to get his first spare. But we can laugh. Well, we can laugh about it. I don't know about Jayson, but we can. All right, Jason's laughing too. He said it's okay for us to laugh about it. There you go, fists raised, arms in the air for a first strike for Jeremy Zimmerman.
Wow, that was Pretty awesome.
That's about the only shot that sounded good here so far today.
Yep. We're getting used to hearing those 6 pins just falling down.
Yeah, used to hearing a lot of clunks.
Let's see if he can do that. See, this is where this lane is different. This lane hangs to the right.
Yeah.
And
you get it a little, it's literally like a 3-inch lane on 29 that you better get it in,
well,
and if
like
not,
straight oil to the straight oil line to straight hook, and the opposite of what you're used to. Oil to the right of you, hook to the left of you.
And that one, a little body English helped Jeremy get that 9th frame spare.
So
it's a big lead at the moment for Jeremy.
The best that Jayson can do is 164. And he'll need every bit of that just to make Jeremy show up. But still on this, you just really, you never know. You really have to go up there and just throw the ball. But he still needs all 3 to make Jeremy get any decent pin count in the 10th.
9th frame for Jayson Schubbe. In his first 2 matches, he has set the bar on these final 2 frames that his opponent could not answer to, but now this one he comes in behind, although that strike helps, but he's the chaser.
Okay, did you see what happened
this
there?
time? I did not. Tell me.
He abandoned anything to do with the middle of the lane, and he did go all the way out to the right and play up the boards in the oil, inside it. And because he's got soft speed and he's got a good hand, that ball actually did roll up. So right now he's shaking his head that he didn't try this sooner. But we'll see what happens on lane 29 where the oil's pretty heavy.
Way to the right again, and a strike again.
Wow. 1 frame earlier he tries this and it is a different match. But that's where the oil is.
Yeah.
If you can play in the oil, that's where it is to the right. And if you can get the ball to roll through it, which he obviously is.
So is that what the future bowlers are going to be keeping an eye on? We might see more
people seeing this and giving it a try.
Almost 3 in a row there. The 3 best shots we've seen Jayson throw in this match.
Well, it's not going to be enough, but he learned something, and that was a pretty good finish based on what he had. Just a little bit too late to make that move.
Yeah, well, very interesting. 153 is going to be the final score for Jayson. It won't be enough, but did he open the door a little bit for everybody else coming up, and maybe even Jeremy as well, to say, okay, here's maybe the way you figure things out here at the Rapids Bowling Center. And Jeremy kind of played it the way that he's been playing it and got some of the same results. So it's going to be a win for Jeremy Zimmerman. Good to see him back on the winning side here at Beat the Champ. Nice run by Jayson Schubbe. We'll find out a little bit about Jayson's mindset and talk to both guys as we wrap up week number 1 here in Niagara Falls. Sue and I are back to the Rapids Bowling Center right after this. Well, it wasn't pretty, but it was a win for Jeremy Zimmerman, 171 to 153. Sue said that you figured something out maybe a little too late there at the end, Jayson?
Yeah, I had thrown that shot a few times in practice. It's not my A game, my B game, or my C game. It's pretty much just taking my hand, going straight up the back of the ball and trying to go as straight as possible. It's probably the best shot for this. And yeah, I went to it in the 9th frame.
Right. How are you dealing? How did you deal, and you saw your opponents deal with the frustration of what this challenge has been today?
Well, I think everybody knew what the shot was going to be today, so everybody else bowled it with it in qualifying. So you pretty much have an idea that you're not going to throw a lot of strikes. You got to make your spares, which is what I did not just do. And so you can't think about bad shots. I mean, because most of the time they're not really that bad of shots. They're pretty decent shots, and then you leave a 4-pin or a 9-pin or something. So.
All right. Well, speaking of spares, that's the reason why that guy's standing next to you.
I was say that the name of the game today was definitely spares, and You said you might be trying to figure something out for the next time. What do you got on your mind?
Following him. He gave me an idea. Exactly what I thought I should do, I didn't do, and I tried to do what Captain Carl always does, hook the whole lane. But he came to my mind in like the 5th frame, and then I think I chopped the spare right then. But stay clean, make your spares, and you're always in the game. So thank you, Carl.
But it's not always 250 that's going to win a match. Sometimes just keeping your head in and make your spares, right?
Absolutely. I thought honestly I needed like what I needed, but I thought I was going to shoot 130, so I came out.
Well, you did a great job making your spares, and we'll see what you got up your sleeve for next week.
All right, Jason's going to demand 25% of all future winnings for giving him an idea there. We'll see if we can't figure out what that might be. Get you ready for show number 2. Sue and I are back to the falls right after this. From the scores that you were writing down to the way the bowlers reacted, that may have been one of the most unusual shows we've ever had.
I know it, but they all went down to the 10th frame for the most part, so it's really not how high your score is. It is just that it's higher than the person you're bowling against. Sometimes 180 is a great score.
Jeremy Zimmerman's got the wheels turning on trying to see what can help him put another win streak alive. What do you think that might be?
Well, what I think is that nothing much is going to change about how difficult these lanes are. And Jayson made 2 really great shots and made it look like there's something there. But I don't think there's anything there that's going to give us that 240, 250. And we're going to find out that you still got to make great shots in order to score.
Well, guess what? We're all going to find out next week. Jeremy Zimmerman advances. Gary Kenyon's the first match. We're going to find out a lot about how these guys are handling the Rapids Bowling Center when we return next week. Hope you're there with us. We'll see you for another week at the Rapids Bowling Center next week, right here on Beat the Champ.